Now, our next guest is best known for his roles in things like Father Ted, Derry Girls, and most recently, How to Get to Heaven from Belfast.
Yes, he's also one of the nation's favourite comedians. Great to have you with us, Ardal O'Hanlon. How are you?
Good, thanks. Yeah, brilliant to be here.
Looking at the stand-up there, is it a while since you've actually got back on tour like that and done a proper full stand-up show?
I've just finished one, actually.
Where?
So I was touring all through the autumn in Britain and in Ireland, and then I did an extension of that tour into the spring. So I just finished at the end of March, actually.
Right.
Yeah, got it all out of my system now.
Exactly. Well, you've turned to writing, which we'll talk about in a minute as well. But you're also in Lisa McGee's How to Get to Heaven from Belfast as well. Now, I believe Roisin Gallagher, Saoirse, who plays Saoirse in it as well. She was kind of fangirling a little bit as well, was she?
I didn't notice it if she was.
Oh, really?
No, I was in awe of them. I mean, they were all brilliant to work with.
Well, what about even work with Lisa? I mean, such a talent.
Yeah, she's
as well.
brilliant. So I did one of her very early shows called London Irish.
Yeah.
Which was a little bit controversial, if I remember, because it was about like a load of Northern Irish kind of young people running amok in London, and people didn't like that representation of the Irish.
Oh, really?
But she always maintained that it was totally based on her own experience.
Yeah, exactly.
But I wasn't one of the young people in that. I was one of the dads. And then we did Derry Girls, which was great fun. But what's brilliant about working with her is like you turn up there, with your character, but then you experiment. And you improvise.
And she
like that?
Exactly, she loves
that, and they're always throwing suggestions at you and everything else. So it's really good fun. It's kind of the seat of the pants stuff, but it's really good fun.
But do you like that as an actor? Because you know sometimes they're so meta, they'd be going, no, I can't do that. I've rehearsed it this way and I have to do it this way.
You see, this is the big thing. Like, you can know your lines inside out. You can have a perfectly formed character in your own head. But until you get in there and you're working with the other people, it's meaningless, actually, because you got to pick up on their tone, their cues, the overall tone of the show. So that's just a starting point, what you've done at home on your own.
You play a dad's... Well, you play a lot of dads, but I believe you just played a grandfather.
I know. I was never so insulted in all my life.
When you got the call?
I got used to playing dads, which is fine.
Yeah.
I can relate to that a little bit. But then I get this call going, hey, do you fancy playing a granddad? It was for a kids show last year, a really good kids show on RTE, actually, called Show Kids. And I was playing the granddad. They gave me this very long grey wig. I was playing a hippie granddad.
Oh,
so
right.
that was something.
Yeah, it was okay.
Grand dude.
Yeah.
I was still very offended.
Yeah, exactly. It must hit hard. But now, happy with the dads for the minute.
Yeah.
But granddad is...
Because, of course, you always think you're a spring chicken. You always think you're in your prime.
Yeah, well,
But
exactly.
you are.
Yeah.
And you are now. You are. Let's talk about the book, A Plot to Die For. This is your third book, but the first one with a murder twist, a murder mystery in it. Why did you decide to go down that road?
Well, I've always been mad about crime. Like, when I'm watching the news, I can always guess who the murderer is. Like, I did Death in Paradise. I didn't even have to read the scripts and I knew who the murderer was. So I was always interested in this genre from a very, very early age. And my last novel, Brouhaha, which was set in the border region, you'd be very familiar with it. And it was a kind of a serious novel, a very funny novel in my opinion, but it was kind of a serious theme.
Yeah.
But there was a crime involved in it. It essentially was a kind of a murder mystery. So this publisher came to me, Simon & Schuster, and they asked me, would you consider writing a more funny, gentle, kind of romantic murder mystery? And I thought, well, yeah, I'd give that a go. And so it's a little bit of a departure for me. I've changed as a person.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny and thrilling, but it's also like, I think it's quite warm, and it kind of celebrates things like family and community. And it's got a big tidy towns element.
Well, this is it.
the thing,
yeah, tidy town, because it's dodgy territory. Like, this is a competitive world.
Oh, tell me about it. Like, it's very serious. And there's a big subplot there where there's a big rivalry with a neighbouring town and there's sabotage involved. But as you all know, as everyone watching knows, like, tidy towns is fanatical in Ireland, and people compete ferociously to win the Tidy Towns campaign.
So what sort of research? Like,
Were you out picking up litter?
Yeah. Well, how do you even learn more about the Tidy Towns competitions?
Well, I actually like in desperation, spoke to some people from my hometown of Carrickmacross.
Carrickmacross have a tidy towns committee.
Oh, you haven't noticed on your way through.
It's spotless.
Listen,
it's spotless.
we'll talk about the competitive nature.
Perennial challengers of the Tidy Towns
The
company.
South
How
Monaghan
dare
ones
you?
against the North Monaghan ones. Right, so you went to meet
No,
the
so
tidy...
I did my. I'm very good at Googling as well, by the way. So I spoke to some people who just gave me the whole background, the lore, you know, the what goes into mounting a campaign. Because of course it's not. Well, it's not just about like picking up litter and planting. It's about everything. It's about restoring old buildings and painting the seats and and you know, inclusion is a big thing, and participation, getting all the schools involved. So like, you know, the whole town comes together. It really exemplifies the best of Ireland. Like my previous novels, quite cynical, quite dark, you know, in tone and everything else. But this novel is a departure for me in the sense that it's really celebrating those things that I kind of missed when I was away from home, family, community.
This is a celebrity gardener who comes back to a small town in Ireland, fictional town, to look after his mom, and gets drawn into the tidy town.
Exactly.
And then there's a murder.
Exactly, against his better judgment.
Yeah.
So he brings his mother, who's had a bit of an accident, and one of the reasons he's come home is to help with her care. And he brings her to the choir practice, and there's a rendition of What the World Needs Now when somebody drops dead. And nobody will speak to the local Gardaí for reasons that become clear in the novel.
Okay.
But they will confide in him because he's had this kind of confessional radio show and TV show. He's a very popular, genial celebrity gardener in the UK. And so people will confide in him.
And they tell him stuff, do they?
Tell him stuff.
It's a hell of a book. I mean, it's some size of a book as well.
I know.
Like, you said you always felt you become a writer, even before comedy and acting and everything else. And you dedicate the book to your mum, Teresa, as well.
Yeah.
She gave you the love of writing and of books.
Yeah, I loved it from an early age. Like, I was an old-fashioned kid, to be honest with you. Like, I used to run home from school from the age of 6 and read the paper.
Right.
And I always loved the court reports. I used to read the Northern Standard. You'd remember that, the local paper in Monaghan.
Yeah.
And I was fascinated by the court reports, the stories of violence and murder and everything. As a young boy, like, this just thrilled me. But then, of course, I love books like Treasure Island and everything else, adventure and daring and thrills and spills. And Agatha Christie I loved from an early age.
Yeah, I love
and that book would be very inspired by those kind of murder mysteries, you know, kind of slightly ingenious, and but lots of suspects.
I loved as well as that you talked back in your early days of writing as well, like you were in school in Blackrock. You used to then write like romantic poems and read them to each other. Is that true?
Are these like young lads
Where are you getting
school
this?
reading romantic poems to each other?
Yeah. No, I mean, obviously, like, we were very pretentious, very precocious young men. There was only 2 or 3 people who were interested in books and literature, and we'd get our galwas and go behind the sheds and read out our cringy poems that we'd written, not to each other, by the way, I should add. But, you know, so that's how it starts. And I even attempted a crime novel when I was about 18.
Right.
My girlfriend was an au pair in Chicago, and I went over and spent the summer in the basement of the house that she was working in.
Okay.
The family knew about it, by the way. I didn't
just in the basement.
You weren't just there, yeah. Who's this person downstairs?
And I remember thinking, like, so I always wanted to be a writer. That was the thing to begin with, before I discovered stand-up.
Yeah.
And I remember writing this, like, I was reading Raymond Chandler. Do you remember Raymond Chandler and Dashiell Hammett and the Maltese Falcon and all these brilliant kind of hard-boiled detective novels? And I started writing this detective set in Montreal called Philippe. And using words like broads and dames and everything, you know. I got about 30 pages into that novel before I binned it. But so that was my first kind of attempt.
Yeah.
And then I finally came back to it, like, how many years later?
That's amazing.
It's amazing.
It looks like there's a to be continued. How's the follow-up?
Will this character go through now a series of books?
Yeah. And so so his mother helps out. So it's kind of an amateur detective team. It's Finn O'Leary, the gardener. It's his mother, and it's his mother's carer, Happiness, who was originally Nigerian, and then it's an old friend of his, Aoife, who's the leading light in the Tidy Towns campaign. And the 4 of them get involved in further mysteries. So I've started the next novel, the follow-up novel.
It's Murder, She Wrote meets Dermot Gavin meets somebody else.
I know.
In a nutshell.
You've apologised to all gardeners out there. You might
I do. Yeah.
There's only so much Google can do, but fair play to you. It's brilliant.
There
Honestly.
it is. A Plot to Die for Ardal O'Hanlon's new book. Thank you so much for coming in and talking to us this
Good to
morning.
see you, Ardal. Thank you so much.